This is Andrew Tate, the leader of the BRUV party and the future Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Join me, if you will, for a quick trip down memory lane to Great Britain of the 1960s. Masculinity was thriving, and it kept the nation in a safe embrace. Every man from this generation remembers fighting in the bloodiest war in European history, a war for our sovereignty. Our home, the British Isles, produced the finest manufacturing goods in the world. The streets were safe to walk. As recently as 12 years ago, we were the 7th safest country in Europe. Nothing to write home about, but a far cry from the England that we suffer today. Our politicians were well-read, studious men who understood their job was to serve the people of Great Britain. Back then, the NHS was in its infancy, founded in 1948 for the sole purpose of providing the British people with the health care they needed. The British people, not the world. Men went out to work in the offices of London, the farms of Lancashire, or the mines of Devon and Cornwall. And on that salary, they could house a family, keep a wife, and raise children. But our empire was collapsing, given away to the natives of the countries we once ruled. Why? Back then it was asserted that these lands, India, the Caribbean, Uganda, rightfully belonged to the native people who inhabited them before British rule. Rightly or wrongly, this was the assumption, and we saw our monarch lose dominion over these places one by one. So I ask you, have we forgotten this simple lesson? The lesson that saw us dissolve and give away the greatest empire ever known to mankind? If these lands were somehow God-given to the people who lived there before the English arrived, what relationship does that give the Englishman to his own rainy little island? If this assertion holds true, where does the Englishman stand? If the colonies had God-given rights to their land, surely the Englishman has a God-given right to his. We've been told by the establishment parties that although this was true for our colonies, it's not true for us. The countries of the United Kingdom, it seems, our native homelands, are not actually our God-given property at all. They are simply an economic zone that anybody can visit, exploit, and extract from. At 40 years of age, in my own lifetime, I have seen the United Kingdom move from what looked like a managed decline into an outright downward spiral, beyond the control or measure of anybody even attempting to steer the ship. Where men once conducted themselves with honor and integrity, where a fist fight and a handshake could end the wildest of pub brawls, we now see knives plunged into chests and throats. And violence is no longer just for our squabbling pub crowd, but for our women, our children, our little girls, and anybody who is crazy or brash enough to wear a mildly expensive watch in our once great capital. As a young man, I still remember terms like ladylike being pushed as a cultural norm. Now we have a world that normalizes a mishmash of masculine and feminine traits in both men and women, with our ladies masquerading as butch, belching, masculine caricatures and celebrated for scandalous, whorish behaviors. The men of Great Britain, once the most feared fighting force on the planet, have become sniveling little effeminate cowards, happy to be conquered and ruled. When once we were happy to see a foreigner who had integrated into our society, a Pakistani shopkeeper, a Caribbean restaurateur, or an Indian accountant, we now stare into a sea of faces and cannot spot a single Anglo-Saxon, a single person of the type which built this entire nation. Many schools in the UK do not have a single white student. These schools are funded and paid for by a state which was built off the back of 1,000 years of the native Englishman's blood, sweat, and tears. The sprinkle of exotic culture that added charm and a flavor to the dish that was the UK has now overwhelmed the senses to the point where all of the individual flavors are no longer distinguishable on the palate. The smiling face of my local shopkeeper with his turban on his head, happy to see me as a young man, seemed normal, healthy even. But who are these foreigners we see today? Well, I do not know. Keir Starmer doesn't know. The government doesn't know. Nobody knows. Men from any place on earth who have ditched their passports into the English Channel, a channel which has served as our successful barrier against foreign invaders since 1066. I've seen menacing yellow eyes on dark hooded men on the corners of London's most famous streets, quietly appraising the value of goods and measuring the softness of the target. What went wrong? Well, if you listen to Keir Starmer, the cause of this destruction that has been wreaking havoc on our island home is a single man. A man with an edgy sense of humor and a coarse cultural upbringing. A man from the ghettos of Luton who raised himself out of the mud and into the upper echelons of society. A man named Andrew Tate. Some years ago, I began running my mouth online, a young, brash kickboxing champion with nothing to lose, and opinions formed by a dangerous and difficult life. I've been telling men for decades to get strong, be successful, stay away from drugs and crime, and yes, saying whatever came into my mind that day. I have been branded as extreme by those with no sense of humor, as though sarcasm wasn't a staple of British comedy for as long as we could remember. Somehow the collapse of our country and all we hold dear is my fault. It must be my fault, because whereas Keir, the Labour Party, the Conservatives, all of these people have absolutely no time to talk about the issues I have just addressed, they have plenty of time to gaslight the public about me and what a danger I pose. The BBC and the mainstream media have printed a negative story about me every single day for 4 solid years without missing a single step, trying to convince you that I am the problem. This is a lie. They only say I am dangerous because I make people think, because I want to save Great Britain, and I highlight their treasonous incompetence. In the last decade, England has suffered 752,204 robberies, 6,590 homicides, 610,251 rapes, over 1 million pickpockets, 9 terrorist attacks, 4 mass murder events. Who remembers when a scumbag blew up children for the crime of going to see their favorite singer? Or when young girls were butchered for having the audacity to learn some Taylor Swift dance moves? No words are given about how to stop people like this, or more importantly, why people like this are in the country in the first place. Instead, we are told the biggest threat to society is Andrew Tate and his inspirational messaging, Andrew Tate's sarcastic comedy. People of Great Britain, the floodgates are open as new barbarians show up on our shores each morning and every single night. And who do we have to fight off the invaders? Nobody. Our once great Royal Navy, commanded by legendary heroes like Sir John Jarvis and Lord Horatio Nelson, now escort and usher the invaders onto our shores, where they walk over the cold bodies of our homeless veterans into their 4-star accommodation. I founded BRUV to be a political vehicle. I founded BRUV to create a movement and a body of voters I could direct towards fixing the problems in the UK, whether by nominating candidates directly or directing votes towards patriots who are running for office. Thank God a few good men still exist, but there are too few. My message to you today is simple. Stop letting the government distract you. Stop letting them wave the boogeyman of Andrew Tate in your faces and tell you that he is the reason you're not safe inside or outside your home. That this great specter is the reason you must fear rape, murder, and terrorism. That he is the reason you live in an abject and humiliating poverty. Most of you have woken up and you're not buying their lies any longer. But I want to make something very clear. England must be fixed today. Today! And I, Andrew Tate, I'm not only far from the cause of the problem, I am the solution. Andrew Tate and the BRUV Party will do what is necessary to restore honor to this great nation. My manifesto, available for free online at votebruv.co.uk, explains exactly how I would regain control of the once greatest country on earth. I will execute mercilessly, whether I am liked or not. Any laws or international agreements which prevent me from execution will be disbanded. I will do exactly what I promised to do instantly and viciously, or I will resign within 30 days of prime ministership. And I will explain to you why I could not enforce these laws. I will explain to you why the prime minister has no power and who our true rulers are. It is time for brutal action, ruthless execution. We are approaching the last few grains of sand in the hourglass. We are out of time to save this great nation of Britain. Truthfully, I pray to God we're not already too late.
All the smart people who have